Mr. Speaker.
I call Penny Hinarei. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity. I rise to speak in the third reading on the Children, Young Persons and Their Families Advocacy, Workforce and Age Settings Amendment Bill. Sir, in my young life, in my short life, I've had the good fortune of working in the public sector, a very strong public sector, and right across all of the roles I've held in the public sector, and even today as a Member of Parliament, sir, I often hear the Māori expression, unu hia te rito o te harakeke, kei hia te kō mako e kō. Whakatai rangitia, rere ki uta, rere ki tai. Ui mai koe ki au, he ha te mea nui o tēnei ao, mā koe ki atu he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. It's everywhere. It's emblazoned on the walls in work and income centres. It's the mantra of a lot of social services, how they operate. It's their mantra. Sir, I just want to take a very brief moment to explain the origin of that particular saying. Sir, an ancestor from Te Aupōuri in the far north, Mr. Calvin Davis territory, a lady by the name of Meri Ngaroto was her name. And she is responsible for those words. Unu hia te rito o te harakeke, goes on to he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And if the members who use it across the House and at will nowadays were to understand its origins, sir, I think they'd second guess whether or not they'd use it. It was actually a remark made to her father, who was about to offer her to a rival tribe as a peace offering, knowing full well, sir, that she was unable to have children. And so she expressed to him, hutia te rito o te harakeke, and the rest is history. Now we're saying it's about the celebration and the focus and importance of people. I just thought I'd leave that one, put that one out there, sir, because when we consider bills like this, it is about the family and it is about our tamariki. It's about the most vulnerable children, of most vulnerable people in our society. In Tāmaki Makaurau, sir, I mentioned in the earlier stages of this bill, there are a large number of Māori tamariki in child, youth and family care. Just recently, sir, myself and the member Jan Logie met with concerned whānau, social service workers and stakeholders very recently, who wanted to express to us, their concerns, not just around this particular bill, but around the whole system and the experiences that they've had. Sir, we are encouraged that this House is considering a change to that system. We're very encouraged by that. It's long overdue. We've got no dispute with that. Pū Aotearoa tū, I thought, lit up a pathway that would have made things a heck of a lot better for our tamariki and for our families. Sadly, the numbers that were presented in the Pū Aotearoa tū book way back in the 80s are still very similar to the numbers we have today. And I think that doesn't speak to the failure of Pū Aotearoa tū, but of successive governments to fully consider the recommendations of Pū Aotearoa tū, and more importantly, resourcing them to make sure they're implemented. Sir, tamariki must be at the forefront. And it is with some dismay that we don't support this bill. We don't support this bill because while we supported aspects of this bill, sir, I can't help but think this process has ankle-tapped us in some respect. Because we agree that youth advocacy is a fantastic opportunity for tamariki, those directly affected, and for whānau, those directly affected by legislation such as this, have their say. And their say is considered, for the most part implemented, we hope. That's a fantastic thing. Sir, the Labour Party has also been very clear with its support about the raising of the age of care. We've always been very clear about that. And we think this is a step in the right direction. Sir, the Minister in her opening address this evening on this bill mentioned that this is one part of a larger picture. From this side of the House, there's a reluctance, having not seen what the picture looks like. Having seen the entire picture, we know what we want to achieve. We want to achieve a New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand, where our tamariki aren't impoverished, where they aren't seriously affected by a system that we believe is inherently broken. That's what we all want. I'm sure about that. But sir, it's hard to support small pieces of legislation in the hope that at some point in time in the distant future, we're going to be able to step back and all of a sudden a beautiful piece of art is presented before us. Sir, and that is a real concern for us. Sir, I'm encouraged to hear from the member, Mr. Ngaro, about the increased funding, because that's also been an issue for the Labour Party in this side of the House about the capacity. I spoke about Puao Te Atatu and how great it was, and how the failure of the system from then till now isn't a reflection of the recommendations made in Puao Te Atatu, but the capacity to make sure that they're implemented, carried through. So we're encouraged by that. The member, Mr. Ngaro, talked about the increase in funding. Of course, that's fantastic. Sir, Māori whānau and groups involved in this sector also had far more questions than I'd argue some of the members in this House about the powers of delegation afforded to the Chief Executive. We understand that this particular power is given in often tricky circumstances. Members, my colleague Poto Williams has spoken about how when you remove a child from a home, how traumatic that can be, how quite often it is a sledgehammer when often a small nutcracker is all that's needed. No, we accept that. In other occasions, sir, it is the need for a sledgehammer in really bad cases. But what's the extent of it? What's the scope of it? Where does it start and where does it end? And that's always been the concern that we've had, and we've made that very clear throughout the process of this bill in the House. Sir, we've also even offered an SOP, which had it have been accepted by this House or by this government, this speech might have been quite different. This speech might have been more stories about plucking the pith from the flax bush and where shall the bellbird sing. But sadly, sir, that's not the case. And we will not support this bill. I've given the reasons I've given the reasons why we won't be. We've already mentioned the reasons that some of the good parts in the bill. But I think the overall thrust of this, sir, is about this bit-piece legislation making that really doesn't present us a full picture of what the landscape might look like for child, youth and family moving forward. Change of name, questions about that. What else is on offer? And I can only think that like other bills that have come through this House, and I've spoken on, Te Ture Whenua Māori is one of those, is how our whānau and how those working in this sector are actually able to digest this, fully engage with it and fully understand it. Because it's all fair and well us with all of the papers, all of the reports, doing what we do in this House. But it means very little if it doesn't have the cut through, the traction, or the support from the people who are implementing it on a day-to-day basis. Finally, sir, in conclusion, I do just want to ask all of us to remember those tamariki who sadly the system have failed. We know who their names are, and at times like this, we've got to reflect upon that and remind ourselves that when we make changes like this, they must be significant. They've got to be transformation, a huge transformation to make sure that the sad cases of the past aren't revisited in the future. Nō reira, kia ora tātou.